to the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Strava. Code DNVR20. You'll get 20% off your entire purchase of CBD infused and deliciously rich of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is our beat writer, Patrick Lyons. And on this episode, we have got to discuss a 5-3 loss, a rare thing this season for your Colorado Rockies at the hands of the Seattle Mariners. Unable to secure that sweep, Patrick, despite what turned into a pretty good starting pitching performance from German Marquez, a key error from Chris Owings, and some bats that really weren't able to get going, especially in a good start from Mariners starter Justice Sheffield. That pretty much amounted to the Rockies' most kind of solid and sound loss of the season so far.
Yeah, for sure. The Mariners just played a better game overall, and you're right. If that error hadn't, sunk the seventh inning and pushing three more runs across, then the 3 runs the Rockies got immediately thereafter in the top of the eighth is the difference, and Rockies win 3-2. But you can't win every single close game. It's just not how it's going to go out. There's still plenty to look towards as the positives, and sure, Marquez is in there for 5 runs, only 2 of which were earned. He's capable of much more, but still, even on a day that maybe isn't considered an off day, really just 2 bad pitches, you could possibly say, he looked great. So still a lot of positive stuff, and their first interleague loss since opening day against the Texas Rangers, a 1-0 affair.
Yeah, and like you said, it was, even though it was getting settled in, the first pitch of the game that he threw, not a terrible pitch, not a great, but more than Marquez would have liked. You probably won't get that a little more inside or outside, one or the other. But you also don't expect them to be swinging at the very first pitch of the game. Leadoff hitters like to take a little bit unless it's right down the plate. But clearly the Mariners came out in this game with the strategy of, we're going to attack his fastball early because we know we can't hit his breaking stuff. And that's what got him there, both on that leadoff single and then the 2-run jacked more. Not a heavily located 97-mile-an-hour fastball, but if you're going to throw it up, you got to throw it a little higher than that. And if you're going to throw it out, you got to throw it a little further out than that. That said, a wall scraper barely got out. 100 miles an hour off the bat, so he definitely hit it hard and not where Marquez wanted. But also a little bit of bad luck, and then he locked it in right after that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised with the expected batting average on that ball. It was something like, it was over 700, but still, as you said, it just kind of barely eked out, and in a different ballpark, that might be one that goes right up against the wall, and obviously you have some competent defense out there, and Charlie Blackmon who can go up and get it if he needs to. But yeah, you like how he bounced back from that as if there would be any issues. You like the way he was able to work together with Diaz, who was in there and finally got his second start. Again, 2 guys from Venezuela, and you hope that could possibly be a nice burgeoning relationship. As frankly, on this team, if you're looking at the best possible matchup, to win a ball game, you may need to go with the better bat. You may need to go with the matchup. I think that could be one of the reasons why we haven't seen Tony Walters play. I personally, I think there's got to be some kind of nagging. Cold. Yeah, he's been a little cold, and you had 2 lefties the first 2 games of the series. Right, so you say, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and take the best bat. These guys will be able to work with anybody, and it was a non-issue, and so again, that's nice that the pitchers and Buddy and the pitching coaches say, you know what? It doesn't matter who's behind the plate. Our guys are going to do their job. They don't need any kind of soothsayer like Tony Walters to be back there and to be the starting pitching whisperer. Our guys can get it done, and yeah, he looked really good, and I like that battery partnership between Diaz and Marquez.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We know, he's got a very close relationship with Walters, but it's not a bad thing to have very close relationships with multiple pitchers on the team and just multiple players throughout. Like that's all good chemistry everywhere. All so good stuff. Like you said, recovery from Marquez today, who ended up going 7 innings, and the only two earned runs came from the first two batters of the game, as we talked about all of those ones there in that inning with the key error from Chris Owings. And I will say this: that was the only, because I was about to say they didn't play a terrible game today. You do have to tip your cap in this situation. Justice Sheffield pitched a hell of a ball game. He was moving that slider around all over the place. It had all kind of funky movement. It was starting low in the zone and dipping just underneath it. He count like right in the middle of the zone twice. David Dahl missed it one time, and I think Chris Owings missed it another time. Not in there to for his bat. He's in there for his defense, which is of course the irony of what happened out there. And while I see a lot of people on Twitter, coming for his job and coming for his head and going right back to the before the season started talking point of why is this guy on the roster instead of Brendan Rodgers, putting aside the fact that Chris Owings' bat has helped them win at least 3 baseball games, including a home run that was legitimately a game winner, and that he's made several very, very good defensive plays already this season. This was his first real bad one, and yeah, it was real bad. It was definitely, like, even after the bobble, to make the throw still and spike it like that, so ugly, and allow both runners to move up, taking the double play, traditional double play, at least out of order for Marquez there. Like, I'm not trying to excuse the play or its importance in the game, but you're not going to see Chris Owings make a defensive play that bad maybe ever again. It was unusual and it was unsustainable. And while I say all of that, I do think we could see, especially, we saw a little bit more of who we expected from Chris Owings at the plate today, that his role will start to diminish here. But he's been playing the hot hand, and you play the hot hand till he cools off. Well, it looks like he's cooling off a little bit. We'll see a little more Garrett Hampson. I almost called him Garrett Atkins. Garrett Hampson. And but yeah, he's still there to come and be a solid defender and base runner late in games. And his place on the roster, in my view, is still 100% justifiable.
Yeah, and he allows you to do a lot more dynamic things, not necessarily in the batting lineup, but defensively, right? Again, Arenado getting the day off today. We'll see how he comes out, all nice and charged up for the Diamondback series that's about set to begin on a Monday evening for 3 games before the Rangers come to town. So again, by allowing Arenado the day off, boom, he's ready to go and hopefully come back from his struggles and take off and get back into that MVP race, which everyone believes for him to get back into. But what also does is it allows some of the other guys on the team to stay comfortable, because we know Ryan McMahon plays a capable third base. But do you want Ryan McMahon to play his third position in the week, or do you want him to stay on that right side of the infield, right? Because he's the team's starting second baseman. All right, well, Murphy needs the day. Keep him over at first base. Again, that perspective on the right side of the infield. Hampson can't play third base. Owings can play second base, but Hampson can't really play third base. He hasn't done it that much. So again, you keep McMahon comfortable at first base. Hampson's comfortable at second base, and Owings can do a capable job at third base. Sure, one got away from him. Trevor Story's made 4 errors this year. It happens, right? It happens. So, he's got a lot of value. And like you said, Drew, I think the biggest piece is just you ride the hot hand, whoever it is, whether it's expected or not expected, and you keep going with it. And so far to this point, Bud Black has been pushing all the right buttons. So, congratulations for everything Chris Owings has done for this team. He's going to continue to contribute too.
Yeah. I saw something else the other day, too, because I had called out the Rockies defense, and somebody had corrected me by saying that they were league in field goal percentage and third in the league in DRS. Now, it's way too early for DRS to hold any meaning whatsoever. And field goal percentage, as we know, is not always the best way to measure a defense. But I will say that contradicted what I had in my head, which was that they had committed an inordinate number of errors, at least for them. You talked about the 4 for Trevor Story. Arenado had one early. He also had a couple of other plays that were, while they weren't errors, were not outs that he normally converts into outs. And I was I was actually thinking about it and watching baseball across the board. Now, I want to ask Buddy about this maybe during tomorrow's pregame presser, is something about the summer camp and the lack of traditional preparation for the season leading to more errors out there for everybody, because it's been because if the Rockies are the third best and they have committed some of these bad key errors that I feel like, man, they tighten that up. I feel like that's an area of the team that needs to tighten up. So the fact that they're third in baseball suggests to me that maybe that's a thing across the game, that in this unique season, some of the teams that will contend in the long run and elongate winning streaks and continue to compete, especially in the middle part of the season, are the teams that tighten up defensively quickest.
Yeah, and I think some of the timeliness of some of those errors, again, we go back and look and you say, well, if Owings doesn't make that error, the Rockies can very easily win the game 3-2. So it wasn't even that he had made those 2 errors on the play. It was when it came and what happened after. Same thing happened last week with a pass ball that got away and moved a runner up to score in position. And so it's just been a little bit of the timeliness of it, which is coincidental more than anything. But it still does give you a little pause and say, okay, there's some stuff that can be cleaned up, that can be improved upon, and certainly that will as this season goes on.
Yeah. Rachel's right. Silver lining, still a half game up on the Dodgers, though. They came back. It looked like they were going to drop another one. You can't ask the Giants to fight too many of your battles for. That's not the world that we live in anymore, though. Another solid performance from Colorado's own Kevin Gossman. People have wondered about whether or not he could be an interesting trade target for this team, with the Giants not likely to compete for a while, with him really finally having some value there. Obviously, the Colorado connection, the potential need for a starter, assuming Ryan Castellani eventually gives up a hit. And so, yeah, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that could be an interesting guy to look at there for the Colorado Rockies, because again, they're in all of these games. You could put this one. We were talking about this, Patrick, yesterday in the article I wrote highlighting the 3 losses. I could very easily just update that piece and put this one in. It looked like I wouldn't be able to. It looked like it was about to go in a very separate category, and they're about to lose 5-0 after the errors. And you were able to say, well, their starter gave up a 2-run jack. They committed a bad error. The bats never showed up, and they lost. They got waxed, and that would have been the first time this season you could say that. But then they do make the little run. They got the tying run to the plate a couple of times and really put the rally together. And you do look back at the error and go, Now, 4 of their losses, you can point to one play and go, if that flips, the team's undefeated still. So lots of silver linings, but they do have to return home here with their head screwed on straight, with their superstar ready to go, and put these guys who they really enjoy beating when they can.
For sure. Anyone that's watched this team in 2019, there were a lot of games that you would have had to have changed at least 3 things. There were 3 of those moments where you'd have had to have changed in order to say, hey, the Rockies could have won this game if A, B, and C. No, we're talking about one thing that would have totally flipped the script on it in their 4 losses. So it's obviously, market improvement. And, with the Diamondbacks coming to town, as much as you say, hey, that's pretty nice, they're going to miss Madison Bumgarner in this series. But then you go and look at what Madison Bumgarner has done for Arizona so far.
That dude.
And you say, wow, he's not having a very good year. And the same can be said for Robbie Ray, who probably is in line for Monday's start. So this will be, I don't know that it'll be a test, but it'll be, again, another reminder. They're coming in fresh. That's the other piece, too, is, on this, you see the lineup on Sunday, before the game, and you go, missing Arenado. Yeah, sure, he's at 185, but you want that star power in your lineup. Daniel Murphy has been hitting incredibly well. He had back-to-back DraftKings player of the game, or rather, he was the player of the game and he was the draft king of the game for one of those two. And ultimately, you say, all right, well, I would like to see Tony in the lineup as well. You know, he's been obviously had a market improvement since last year offensively. And you say, well, it's a Sunday lineup. It's a getaway day. So be it. Marquez is on the hill. You expect to win those games, but at the same time, the lineup might not entirely reflect that. And you lose the game. It's not as a little too much, a little too late said. It's a loss. Not a bad loss, just a loss.
Yeah, it reminds me of another point that I really should have put in the poll about what the losses tell you about where this team is and how they contradict the argument that this team is on some hot stretch. And that's another one, is that they haven't swept anybody this year. The A's in 2 games, I've told you before, 2-game sweep. It's not a sweep. In an actual series of 3 or 4 games, they haven't swept anybody yet. They've just won all 5 of them. Despite these things going against them, bouncing back. So again, I feel like that's another solid indication that this is sustainable. If the Rockies were 14-0, you'd be going, okay, this, something's really got to give here. As it is, you expect them, looking at these pitch matchups, they should be the favorite to win this series against the Diamondbacks. And you never predict a sweep. We've talked about that before too. It's just you don't really do that. You take them to win a series, and you're right. Robbie Ray coming in and pitching that first game. Now I'm pulling up these stats right here because I want to make sure I've got this right. Because not only is he not having a good start to this season, I believe he has struggled mightily at Coors Field. Yeah, he's given up a batting average of 303 at Coors Field in 8 games pitched. Where's that ERA at? Where is it? Bring it to me. That's not a good bet. It's going to be high if he's given up an 800 OPS at Coors Field. For some, can't find the.
And he looked fantastic during the summer camp. He's heading into a free agent year, so obviously there's a lot on the line for him, and you got to wonder if there's just something in the water down there in Arizona if both Robbie Ray and Madison Bumgarner are getting shelled in each and every one of their outings that isn't even at Coors Field yet.
Yeah, it looks like it's a 423, so not quite as bad as I thought it would be, but still not. He's not coming in with a ton of confidence. He's been tweaking his mechanics early in the year. He's got that's not right, a 9.45 ERA. That's not. Is that right? This season already, they're having a tough time there, man. Yep. I don't know. I mean, I rated, but I didn't think those guys were going to get hammered quite like that.
Yeah, it's been rough going for the Diamondbacks. They're in the basement, and they've only got 6 wins, so they're third worst record in the National League right now. They just they got off to a poor start has really been the issue, and they're playing these interleague games against the Dodgers, the Padres that they had a series against, who played them really well. So a little bit of bad luck, but so they're starting the season off 6-10, but they were, I think by most accounts, maybe maybe by a hair, but the team to beat as the second best team in this division. And okay, so a 6-10 run. It's the start of their season, but it's a run that, for everything that we talk about how good the Rockies have been without Nolan Arenado, and you go, well, that seems impossible. You couldn't possibly do that. Well, you could say the same thing about Madison Bumgarner and Robbie Ray. Again, if those guys are really bad, of course the win-loss record is going to reflect that for the Diamondbacks. But you know that those guys are going to figure it out, because even in this shortened season, and as far back as they are, it's only 5.5 games in early to mid-August. So there's plenty left at stake for those guys, especially with there being 16 playoff spots, 8 in the National League. So they are by no means out of it yet. They are coming for Colorado, and looking to take the series, no doubt about it. So it's going to be a good one starting Monday night.
Yeah, the game I think is sort of the toss-up, if you're looking at it, would be Game 2, Zach Gallen versus Kyle Freeland. Gallen's been good Lately, he allowed 2 innings on over six. He allowed 2 innings? No, he allowed 2 runs over 6 innings in his last time out, going up against Kyle Freeland in the second game. So he's got a 2.81 ERA with Kyle Freeland's 2.41 coming in. Uh, every time we've kind of looked ahead on the schedule and been like, well, that's the one that really should be the game that they get it, or the other team gets. Maybe it doesn't work out that way. But then again, you got to like your chances in that closer on Wednesday, an afternoon game. Luke Weaver goes for the Diamondbacks, and he's on an incredibly short leash. He was only allowed to throw 3 innings his last time out. He has struggled quite a bit so far this season with a 12.19 ERA. He goes up against Antonio Senzatella, 3-0 with a 2.65 ERA, and has held opposing hitters to a 2.27 batting average so far this season. And we've talked about all of the reasons why that is the case, what's working for him. Again, you can't count on it to unfold just like that, but the Rockies should be able to come out of this with another series win. And if so, you can totally shrug off a loss to the Mariners. We're like, could have swept, but
yeah, game two, you're right.
Going.
Yeah, Tuesday night, you're right. That's probably the must-win game, right? Where you like your odds on Monday and Wednesday. You like your odds, obviously, on Tuesday with Kyle Freeland, but that's the one where, the best Diamondback starter to date. Zach Gallen was, a top 100 prospect and came over in an interesting trade last summer, basically a challenge trade where Diamondback said, hey, we got a really fantastic hitter named Jazz Chisholm, great name, and the Marlins had a great young pitcher named Zach Gallen, and they said, okay, well, we need a little pitching, you need a little hitting. They made the deal, and so far Gallen, although he's without a win, has a 2.81 ERA, and Freeland, is just underneath that mark at 2.41, and for everything that we've talked about, Daniel Bard kind of being this, reclamation project and the comeback story of the season so far, you have to say Kyle Freeland, especially with one more really solid start, really puts his name back in the mix as far as 2020's comeback player of the year after everything he dealt with last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've talked about the process. It's been good. He's missing barrels at an extraordinary rate, and it's because he's staying out of the middle of the plate. He's employing all of his pitches. He's using them wisely. He's throwing them where he wants. The result of new mechanics and really going through the ringer last year and learning what he needed to do to get that extra little bit out of himself. To do exactly what you said there, Patrick, to come back right now he is kind of to where he was in 2018 right now, pitching at that level, like really getting the weak balls and not allowing runs and quality start and finding ways to help his team win ball games. It's been very impressive.
Yeah, this will be, a good test for him because he's seen the Diamondbacks a lot throughout his career. He's had some success, some not so much. And again, at Coors Field, he's, I'm sure, really looking to say, okay, I can master this again. He knows he's not going to be able to have a 2.5 ERA at Coors Field. Was unheard of when he did it. It's still, that might be one of those unbreakable records. Really, that's active right now in Rockies franchise history. But still, you just want to go out and be competitive and give your chance, give your team a chance to win the ball game, much like Marquez did, gave up those 2 runs in the first and said, okay, that's fine. Let's keep it here. Let's keep it at 2 and give the offense a chance to come back. So they don't get it done today on Sunday. They are sweepless in Seattle, but you can't win them all.
No, you can't. So you can still toast to your team. I can do so with the vanilla porter from Breckenridge Brew. Patrick, of course, constant Strava Craft coffee drinker, all time, all day, every day.
Yeah, now that we've got it, now that we've got the cold brew.
Quality. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That cold brew down at the bar, very, very, very quality experience. Got to enjoy your Breckenridge Brew on a day like today. Still afternoon, yeah. Your ball club didn't get you a win out there, but Marquez pitched well, another 7-inning performance. Charlie Blackmon. Oh, by the way, one last thing we got to talk about here. How do we almost got out of here without this, Patrick? Almost walked away from the conversation without even mentioning actually our draft king of the game, because you still got to have one even in a loss. And really, this should be an honorary draft king of the series for Charlie Blackmon. Remember to use that promo code DNVR when you download the app. You get a bonus up to $1,000 for the DraftKings Sportsbook app. But the draft king of the game, because he got another couple of base hits out there, drew a walk. I think he finally made an out, and it was the third one he made in the series. And it was a harder back up the middle. Even that was impressive from this man. He's on another level right now. Just amazing to see him go out there, what he's doing. It's really too bad we couldn't give him draft king of the game when we had to give it to Ryan Castellani in game 2. So Chuck Nass, more than deserving here for both this game and I would say for the whole series.
Yeah, 2 for 3 again. So another multi-hit performance, 13-game hit streak, second longest streak active in the bigs right now. Only Donovan Solano. Yes, that Donovan Solano of the Giants. He continued his streak at 14. So, by the time that Dodgers series hits in 2 weeks, he's going to be in the 20s. So it'll be interesting to keep him hot, and he's been fantastic. He would look amazing with a crown atop his head, coming out of Game of Thrones. Game of Thronesian. Does he have a Game of Thrones bobblehead yet? He needs to. He should have had one at least at some point.
Seriously, it's incredibly disappointing that he hasn't. We did a Game of Thrones. I did an article several years ago talking to all the guys who were into Game of Thrones at the time, and we got somebody who actually ended up doing social media for a while. Tony, shout outs if you're listening. Great guy. Did a little graphic for us and put Charlie Blackmon into some Game of Thrones gear. Nolan Arenado as well. We were using that as a graphic for King in the Clutch when he's got that Jon Snow appearance. So we got to bring that back. It's too bad people were so mad about how Game of Thrones ended that nobody's allowed to talk about it anymore. Otherwise, I would have constant Game of Thrones references on this. But sometimes culture just cancels you out and you're done.
Yeah, that goes down as one of the worst enders. That and Dexter, which was a series that I know a lot of people, I don't know if you ever saw that Showtime series where he's basically a serial killer with morals. And then you get to the end and, so many people just love that series and it was fantastic. And then it ends and you just go, that was stupid.
Yeah.
And people give Seinfeld a lot of crap for how that ended, but it fits in with the whole series. Right. It was good. It was just over pumped up. You go back and you watch it now and you go, that was fantastic. There's no perfect way to end it. There was no, Elaine rips her mask off and you find out that it was George the whole time and George had a twin brother and like what? Right. Oh, that really caught me by surprise. It's a comedy. It's a sitcom. Right. What do you expect? They tied it up really well.
Sopranos. I don't know if you were a Sopranos guy, and that was very controversial.
I loved it.
Show and you were into it.
I was watching at the time. As I don't know if I've mentioned this, I'm from New Jersey, so that was kind of appointment viewing there. And when that happened, of course, in everyone's household across the world who was watching it live goes, "Wait, what's wrong with my television? How does this end? It just went black." And I'm like, and if they waited long enough, I'm like, wait, hold on. The show's a little artsy. And the music played, and I go, nope, that was intentional. No, I think it cut out. That was intentional. It's brilliant. Yeah, it was great. That was a good ending.
Good stuff. I remember actually, for people that don't watch professional wrestling and wonder why we talk about it and are always into it, one of the best arguments I ever heard for its storytelling, I think it was Triple H on some talking about that exact thing. Like, if you hate the ending to like WrestleMania, whatever, like just tune into Monday Night Raw the next night because it never actually ends. And so something else might come up and then you're back into it, right? There's always a chance for redemption, where when something like Game of Thrones ends and you're like, man, and now I just don't even get, and there's nothing to bring it back and make it better like any of these other things. You got to nail it, but that is one of the things about wrestling, and I think professional sports. It's kind of the same thing, right? Like you have a crap year like 2019, and you don't just stop being a Rockies fan. You go, well. And even if you hated this off season and you still kept listening to this podcast and reading articles and hanging out and talking to us on Twitter and stuff, and it's because you're like, well, there's going to be a next chapter, and we don't know for sure what the next chapter is going to be. So let's tune in and find out.
Yeah, the parallels with the Marvel movies and sequels kind of fits in where the off season comes and you're reading some of the dirt sheets, if you will, and you see the trailer and you want to see something new and exciting, and you're like, I didn't see the thing I wanted to see. You're like, oh, you added Daniel Murphy? It's like, no, we wanted Storm. We wanted Storm to be in this one. Why? Where's Storm?
Right.
We don't want Daniel Murphy.
Right.
But then you go and you watch the movie and you go, that's pretty damn good. And right now the Rockies are a great film to watch every night.
I don't know if you did that on purpose, but you also totally nailed that specific reference. I don't
really?
know if you. Yeah,
I did not. I had to come up with somebody. I had to come up with like a mid-tier. I had to find like a mid-tier superhero. And I'm like, let me think of somebody. I don't know. I haven't heard Storm in a while. Boom, through. Could have gone a Jubilee. Maybe could have gone that route.
Any of the X-Men. Really, the big thing is that we've had 30-something massive Marvel Avengers movies, and because of a stupid dispute between Sony and Disney and Marvel and all these people for a long time, that's finally been worked out. But it hadn't been for such a long time. People are bouncing as well. They should. We're like, this isn't about baseball anymore. We're going to wrap it up here. But for the 10 nerds hanging out with us, as I finish this point, so they haven't been able to have the X-Men in the MCU, and that's part of the reason why. After they've had 30 of these movies, and people are like, what can they even do? It's like, ooh, wait till the X-Men get to hang out with the Avengers. Boy, are you folks in for a good time. So that was funny that you pulled that one. I was like, well done. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. So sometimes you run into one. You know what I mean? You got to show up every day to play. Yeah. My best friend loved wrestling and loved soap operas. And I think soap operas are a lot like wrestling, like kind of like you said. If you don't like the ending of a pay-per-view, tune in Monday the next day, and it kind of starts all over again. And it's the same thing with soap operas, where there's people out there, that are listening now, going like, "Oh my God, my grandmother or my aunt or whatever it is they've been watching General Hospital or All My Children for 30 plus years."
Yeah, right.
I watched it when I was young too. There was a time where I had a stretch watching All My Children and Erica Kane. Yeah, I'm dropping a Susan Lucci reference there for anyone. Wow. I try to stay well rounded. So Lala Lucci there, Regis Philbin shout out. But yeah, it does make you think, like soap operas. If soap operas were a much bigger thing in our society now, I would imagine that they'd make movies too. Like wrestling, how they build towards pay-per-views, you could do that where tune into, General Hospital, Sunday night, 8 o'clock, you got to buy the pay-per-view for $20. It picks up where the television series ended off on Friday, and you could do some interesting things with that. But we like drama. We like good stories, and you know what? They can come in all shapes and forms, and comic books, which, if you like the movies of Marvel and DC and all that, like, that's really scratching the surface. Get into the comics, and it'll blow your mind away with what's going on there, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think we have thoroughly nerded out at the end of this podcast. Let's finish it out on this comment from a little too much, a little too late again. I wait for the DNVR Rockies pod like it's a soap opera. Today's star, Patrick's guns. Look at those things. Look at those.
I got to keep them sheathed. I got to keep them sheathed. The sun is out too much, so you know what happens with that.
I do. I don't know if you've seen my skin, but I am very familiar with what can happen there. All right.
I'm bronze. I'm bronze compared to what I normally am.
It's a Jersey thing, right? Isn't that where you're from?
I've heard that.
All right. Thanks, everyone, especially to those of you who stuck around through whatever that was. This has been a lot of fun. Despite the fact that the Colorado Rockies lost today, you still got some quality baseball out there. You still have a good team. Tune in tomorrow and watch, and we will be right here along with you for the ride. So make sure that you're following us on all the social media at Patrick D. Lyons, at Drew Creasman, at DNVR_Rockies. Make sure you're subscribed to the DNVR.com and you get yourself some cool merch like wearing. We got a mask so that you can be safe while also looking super cool. We got new Rocky shirts, 2 of them, the Locker Hall of Fame shirt and the Colorado Rakes shirt. We got to put out a debate on Twitter to find out which is your favorite, because both of those designs are straight fire. All right. Thank you all for tuning in today. Remain out there. We will remain absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.